I skimmed through it. It was doing way too much. It was doing way too much and not enough at the same time. Welcome everybody to Chibi Reading. I am Shama, aka Chi, and today we are going to be talking about Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is still killing the game. So if you haven't heard of Kindle Unlimited, basically it is Amazon's kind of library system where you do pay $10 a month, but you can check out 10 books at a time. It's not a total of 10 books. You can check out 10 books at a time, and then as you finish the books, you can return them and then check out more, but you can only have like 10 books at a time in your library. And it's not like just regular, like really old books from 100 years ago. It's like new books, great authors. So my favorite authors have books on Kindle Unlimited. So it is 100% worth the $10 a month. And it's gonna be a long time before I'm canceling my Kindle Unlimited. So today I'm gonna show you the 10 books that are on my Kindle Unlimited shelf right now. So just to give you a little glimpse, this is how the interface of Kindle Unlimited looks. So you see I have this book right here that's checked out, and then it also has all the other books that I have either checked out or returned. So currently, only ones that are checked out are the ones that have this green line there. Yeah, so this should give you some recommendations if you are new to Kindle Unlimited, if you just want to try it out. These are some books I'm reading now. Some of them I finished and just haven't found a new one to return yet, and then some of them I just added. So the first book on my Kindle Unlimited shelf is To Boston with Love. Adorable name. I'm so excited to read this. The author is a Black woman, so doubly excited to read it. It is a romance book. So it's about the main character, Boston, who comes from not the quintessential family structure. He was abandoned when he was really young, and he's just really been fighting all of these inner demons since he has been abandoned and kind of left with no family. The main girl here, her name is Indigo, who was kind of afforded the opposite type of life. You know, she has a great family structure on the outside, and everything seems to be seemingly going well for her. But through the book, apparently it seems that both of them are struggling on different things. Even though Indigo has a seemingly perfect life, she's battling her own demons, and same with Boston. So they kind of meet and try to mend their broken hearts together while, you know, getting to know each other, and then a love starts blossoming. And I'm so excited for this book. Sounds really cute, really great. I love sounds like the characters are really going to be kind of like shine through this book. So excited that it is available on Kindle Unlimited. The second book on my Kindle Unlimited shelf is Shadow and Ice by Gena Showalter. I never know if I'm saying her name correctly, but Gena Showalter has been one of my favorite authors for probably the longest, 15 plus years. And this is a Gods of War series. So this is another paranormal romance series, and I love all of Gena Showalter's paranormal romance. Like, she does them amazingly. So this one is about the characters are from alien countries, or we would call them alien, but they're from different dimensions basically. And each of these dimensions kind of has a warrior that is sent by their king and queen to fight in what is called the All War. The All War is set at a new planet, a new world, and basically everyone fights to the death. The person who is left, the last man or woman standing, claims the world for themselves and for the kings, and is afforded some type of wish, some type of thing. So people want to free their families, people want internal riches, people want freedom. So a lot of these people are enslaved. So the next the All War that takes place in this book is done on Earth. In this book, all of the members of the All War get frozen in time, get frozen in ice. So they're just icicles for millennium. And then the main girl, is just like on a trip with her sister, and they stumble upon the day that the ice is breaking for all of these warriors. So that is happening. And the main guy is just like the war or die. Anything else is a distraction. I'm not looking at you. I'm not talking to you. Everyone who is not an ally is an enemy, so everyone's pretty much an enemy. So they find themselves actually having to work together in order to live, and then things blossom. I actually have read this book. Amazing, honestly. If you love Gena Showalter, if you love a paranormal romance, this book is actually really, really good. So I'm excited for the rest of this series. The third book on my shelf is Cursebreaker, Kingdom of Ruins 2 by Audrey Gray. And this book is another book on my shelf that I have already finished and have not found another book to exchange it for. So I usually keep books in here just in case I want to read them if I don't have another book on Kindle Unlimited I'm currently looking at. So this book I also have already read. It is great. This is one of the books, one of the series where the sequel trumps the first book hands down. After I read the first book, I didn't even think I was really going to like even continue reading this. I was like, it was okay at best. Like I think I gave it 3.5 on Goodreads or something. But book number 2 went off. Four and a half stars easily. It was so good. Like characters kind of jumping out the pages. Like I was like, where were y'all? Where were y'all in book 1? Such a good book if you like fantasy. This fantasy world is very unusual, and I think it's really interesting the way it seems like there's almost, I love when books do kind of like a dual plot, like there's also a dual main character. So the main character is the girl who's on the front cover basically, and then there's also the prince who is kind of like the main sub character, and they both have different lines of streams of kind of like what's going on in this world, but they're both like kind of like equally interesting. So this girl wants to break a curse so she can free her friend, who she doesn't even know whether he's alive or not, and then he also believes that she is dead, so he's just really angsty and angry right now. And then she has to partner with the enemy and also partner with the enemy's enemy in order to kind of like try to break this curse, and he's really just like trapped and can't do nothing. So the premise of this is this girl wants to break this curse, and she's just a human basically. So there's many different types of creatures in this world, and she's just a human, so she kind of has everything stacked against her, but she does find that she has magic, very, very powerful magic. So she has to join forces with the enemy in order to go and find this curse or break this curse in order to save her friend, who she doesn't even know if he's alive or not. And she also has to join forces with the enemy's enemy in order to learn how to control her powers. She has to find all of these things like dragon's tooth and elf's hoof. Those aren't the real things, but you know, mythical things like that, in order to kind of like do all of these trials to get to the end, which is to defeat this grand witch who has hold over the curse. And once the curse is broken, you are afforded a wish. So she has to think about like what this wish is going to be, and as she like kind of builds relationships with the enemy and kind of like a slow burn love kind of ensues, and then she still like never forgets about her friend, who she doesn't even know if he's alive or not. A lot goes on. It's a lot going on, but this book, if you read the first book and you're like, it didn't do much for me, I guarantee you read the second book and it does a lot more. The fourth book is Chosen, the Warrior Chronicles book 1 by K.F. Breen. I have not read this book yet, but I'm really excited to read it. It seems paranormal romancy as well, adult paranormal romance. And I was kind of hesitant because I kind of like side-eye some books when they say it features a strong alpha male. I don't know why, but it seems like an interesting way to describe your male lead. So whenever something is alpha male, I'm just like, sounds emotionally abusive already. So usually I'm hesitant, but I've heard great things about this book. So the main female character, she has a rare ability, and she has been used as a weapon in this great war. So she has special abilities that no one else can do. That's really helping her people in the war. So one day she ends up in a very precarious situation where she is on the brink of death, and then the main guy character and his kind of band of warriors finds her kind of on the brink of death and decide to help her, and they are all entrenched in the same war, and she needs allies at this point. So she's just like, either I reveal my secrets, that I have all of these rare powers that I can easily be used as a weapon, and I hope these people aren't evil, or I just go at this alone. So she kind of has to make that decision, and like hopefully it's a slow burn romance. I love a slow burn romance, and this sounds really good. I love how it's called the Warrior Chronicles, and the main person is a girl, so you know like she's badass, you know she's really just like a strong lead, and I love that. And I love how the fantasy and the war aspect seems to be really just as important as the romance in this. So this book sounds like it's going to be amazing. The fifth book I have on my Kindle Unlimited shelf is Fantasy of Frost, the Tainted Accords book 1 by Kelly St. Clair. See, I know I love Kelly St. Clair. Like, I really can't name any of her books off the top of my head, but I know I love her. I know I really like her books, but I've had this book on my Kindle Unlimited shelf since the beginning of this year, and I've tried to get through the first chapter probably 10 times, and I never have, and I have no idea why. It's not even like a bad first chapter, just nothing really happens. So there's this girl, she is the princess of this kingdom, and all I know right now is that she has to constantly wear a veil. So she has a little boo thing, but even he hasn't seen her without her veil. It's constantly on, so no one has seen her face, no one can really like touch her face. She's completely veiled, and she hates her mom also hates her. Her mom is queen, so it's kind of a struggle of power dynamic between the mom and the daughter. And because her mom doesn't F with her. Like, they don't talk, they're not friends. Her whole court kind of shuns her. So even though she's the princess, she's kind of a leper in this kingdom, which, you know, is mad whack. And then so the premise of this is something happens, like there's peace talks between kingdoms, and that ish goes south. And the prince, one of the princes, shows her some kindness and just kind of like envelops her. And this is something that she has never felt before because of her upbringing. Everybody she knows who should take care of her, should nourish her, has shunned her. So that's what happened, and I don't know any more than that. I know it's a fantasy book, you know, it has one of the maps in the first couple pages, so you know it's supposed to be a good fantasy book, but I cannot get past the first chapter. If you have read Fantasy of Frost and you like it, or you just give me something, I just need a reason to keep reading, because for some reason I cannot get through it. The sixth book on my Kindle Unlimited library is Earth and Air Awakens Book 3 by Elise Kova. So I have read this book? No, I read the first two books. This is the third book in the series. So Kindle Unlimited, really cool thing is you can have multiple books in a whole series and complete it all in Kindle Unlimited. So that is amazing. Bang for my book. Lord knows I'm cheap. So the first two books on this, it's about a girl who lives in a magical kingdom where there are people who are born with magic and people who don't. And there's kind of just a lot of stigma around people who are born with magic. They're kind of thought of as more evil, and there's kind of more negative connotation around those people. So in the beginning, the first book, you know, she's in love with the prince. Like, there's this prince who's kind of known as a playboy, like, you know, he's like one of those pretty boy princes, and then he's sick, and she is a scholar in that sense, a scholar or scholar student. So they hear that the prince is sick when he comes back from war. So what she has to do, and the rest of her kind of like scholar teammates or colleagues, is find the cure. They have to go through the library and go through book by book by book to try to find a cure. And she, because she loves the playboy prince, so she really loves him, so she's like going through, like, we have to find a cure, like, y'all ain't working hard enough, we gotta save my boy, right? So she ends up actually finding the cure, and then she is kidnapped into the Tower of Magic because they say the person who found the cure, which is her, has magic. And she's just like, it's not me, sis, it ain't me, but it ends up being her. And she ends up being kind of like really important, and then their romance in this is so good. This is such a good series. Like, I would really 5 stars. It is such a good series, and I highly recommend it. Like, the magic, the war in it, the characters, I love when there's a family dynamic, but the siblings are so distinct from one another. The romance is so slow burn, but also not. It's kind of like, it goes in waves, and you're just like, you're here for it. So I definitely recommend the Air Awakens series, available on Kindle Unlimited. The 7th book on my Kindle Unlimited library is Blood and Sin by Laura Thalassa. I hope I'm saying her last name right. I actually love Laura Thalassa. She's one of my favorite authors, top authors, and she really can do no wrong. I've never read a book by her that I didn't like. Some are better than others, but overall, Laura Thalassa goes off in her books, and she's one of the few authors that does have a diverse casting, and I really enjoy that. So I have not read this book, but I do know it is a romance, a paranormal romance, and the main girl in this is a demon. So this is the paranormal romance, and she is a demon, and she kind of has a healing ability. So her thing, she has sworn an oath to her people, the demon people, that she will continue being a healer, and the way that she heals, the way that they must heal, is to drain human blood. So that's what she's doing over there. The main guy is a human, and he has a vendetta against demons because they did kill his wife and his child. So basically, they end up meeting. He realizes she's a demon, and he's just like, I hate you on sight, and takes her prisoner. He just expects to be able to kind of like end her, or find out more information about the demons, or just like something to kind of appease all of the rage that he has for demons. But he just finds out that, like, she's kind of just a person, you know, she heals her people, she must do this and must do that. So that's kind of how the romance blossoms in this. So I'm very excited about this book. I love paranormal romance, check, and I love Laura Thalassa, check. So I know this is going to be an amazing book. The 8th book on my Kindle Unlimited shelf is Lurking in the Woods Beyond the Veil, Book 1 by Anne Stryker. And I was really interested in this book because it's supposed to be a adult romance version of Little Red Riding Hood meets Beauty and the Beast. So I don't really know the story of Beauty and the Beast. I just know there is a beauty and there's a beast. I don't know if the beast doesn't become a beast anymore, or if the beauty, if it's like Shrek or something. But that's all I know about that. I do know the story of Little Red Riding Hood from Hoodwinked. I watched that movie. So I'm not really sure how you can even combine it, but it sounds really interesting. It's about a girl, so the main person inherits a cabin in the woods, or in kind of like a very, very like foresty type of place, and finds that there's a whole nother world up here, and it's guarded by this wolf, this mysterious wolf. So somehow from that, romance ensues. Little Red Riding Hood comes a riding, and Beauty and the Beast is in there. But I'm really excited. Just like having a mashup of two different mythical kind of like fables sounds really interesting. And adult romance, my cup of tea. So looking forward to Lurking in the Woods. The 9th book I have is Daughter of the Shades by Sylvia Mercedes. And honestly, I can't even give you a synopsis of this book or what it's about. I just know it's gonna go off. Apparently, this girl, she has shadows. She lives in a shadow world, and she's been an apprentice her whole life. She wants to make it up in the ranks of this world. So she enters a competition so she can finally prove her worth to the prince. And she wants to prove her own to the prince so she can stop this apprenticeship. She doesn't want to be under her apprentice. Her apprentice is scheming, untrustworthy, rude, everything. So doesn't want to be on it. So she goes into this competition and ends up against her rival, her longtime rival, who of course is, you know, mad fine, because, you know, there's paranormal romance in this. So basically it is the trials of going through that competition, and then while this competition is occurring, there is some other evil that is taking over the kingdom, and like they may have to join forces, which is like one of my favorite tropes. Like I love a slow burn romance, but I want it to be as slow as possible. I want enemies, the worst of enemies to lovers. Like I love that. That's my ish. And this book has a very pretty cover, looks like it's going to be amazing, so very much looking forward to reading that one. The 10th and final book is Illusions Magi Rising by Ray Wagner. So this book, I have to admit, I've already read it and I skimmed through it. It was doing way too much. It was doing way too much and not enough at the same time. So the first 2 books, great, amazing. Kind of confusing, honestly. The second book was kind of confusing. You know what? I take that back. This whole series has been kind of confusing. Book 1, really good, really great, loved it. Book 2 was good if it had been the first book in the series. So the first 2 books seemed independent of each other. The 3rd book just seemed like it came out of nowhere. So if you've read this series, tell me what you think about it, because it doesn't really make any sense to me. But I think I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a 4th book. I know I'm gonna read it because I'm just too curious. Like, even though I wouldn't say this is like a 5 or 4-star series, it's a 3.5, and I'm just curious. I just want to know like where this was all going. Maybe I'll reread the whole series and find out. There's a lot that goes on in the series. It is about magic. It's about these 2 sisters, one who is kind of like really glamorized and really kind of like seen as the girl who's going to marry the prince, and the other girl who's been in love with the other prince, or maybe the same prince, but she's not really seen as like, you know, a girl or someone who's viable for marriage. But they've all been friends since they were younger. One of the princes becomes evil, and then the other prince doesn't really do anything about it. The other girl has to go on the run. A lot goes on in this series, and I'm kind of like, but where are we going? Where are we going, fam? What are we doing? What are we doing? What's the end goal here? So yeah, if you've read it, please tell me what you think. So those are all the books that are currently in my Kindle Unlimited library. If you've read any of these books or have any comments, any suggestions of other books in Kindle Unlimited, please let me know. I do love this series, and I highly recommend it if you are on a budget, like we all should be right now. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.